Hello? Is this thing even working?
Are you sure you know how to use that console, Mike?
I'm not sure. I don't even know what to say.
Oh, maybe you should read the script.
Script. There is a script. If you are hearing this, the worst has happened. We are transmitting to you from the year 2401. We're coming to you live from Outpost 13. Our charter is to inform the human race of horrific events that took place in the year 2389. We believe that there are other outposts in operation. However, we cannot confirm whether or not any of these other outposts have survived the cataclysm. At our outpost, we have an unlimited source of media from antiquity. We have preserved this collection for the betterment of future societies. We're not sure if anybody is receiving this. And once we collate all the relevant data, we will update through transmissions the nature and scope of the future that you face. But until then, we present to you a film from the media archives from the year 1979, Phantasm.
Right on. Good job, Mike.
Thank you, sir. I'm just a lowly janitor. I don't know what I'm doing.
All right, welcome, people of the past.
Welcome, everybody.
My name is Chris. This is Mike. We'll be your hosts for this transmission, and we're going to talk today about the movie Phantasm by Don Coscarelli, from the year 1979.
1979. So, yeah, this is a great movie. I'm going to premise it with that. I love it. A lot of memories, a lot of nostalgia kicks up when I'm watching this movie.
When did you see it first, by the way?
This had to be 20 2041 around that time.
Wow, you're older than I thought.
Yeah.
Me personally, I saw it last Thursday
You
in
saw it last Thursday?
yeah, in the recreation room. While I was eating, I don't know if you noticed this, but they have a whole bunch of this stuff in the
What's that
the
is
resource
it
bunker. It's like dessert. I
like
don't.
marshmallow or
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of this stuff along with Soylent Green and a bunch of Melba toast in the
really?
yeah, in the resource center. So I don't
That
think we're gonna go
sounds
hungry. But
no,
anyway,
no. I don't get some
anyway,
pre-movie snacks with that stuff.
yeah, I love Melba toast.
Melba toast.
A little Soylent Green on it. Yeah, it's good.
That's it. just just spread a little on.
So
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 yeah, this movie was directed, like you said, by Don Coscarelli. Um, the cool fact is Don Coscarelli actually wrote, directed, edited, and filmed this movie himself, which is pretty cool. The budget wasn't high, and he actually had his mother helping as a seamstress with the costumes for the movie. He had several friends as extras in the movie.
And I heard that they actually filmed it over 2 years and they only did it on the weekends,
Yeah,
which is crazy to think for a major motion picture production. But
yeah.
yeah,
Everybody still had their day job during the week, and you got to fit it in where you can.
right. So I heard that the movie was originally supposed to be an adaptation of Ray Bradbury's book Something Wicked This Way Comes,
Hmm.
which I was actually reading. I didn't get to finish the whole thing because we have October 1st coming up. Actually, we're filming it the day before, but you guys are going to see it on October 1st. Um, so I haven't made my way all the way through this, but it's supposedly Reggie Bannister, who plays Reggie in the movie, uh, came to Don Coscarelli with the idea of making an adaptation of this book, but
Hmm.
apparently there was already a version of this book being in that was in production at the
Hmm.
time, so they decided to write Phantasm instead.
I believe Disney got the rights to
Disney,
actually produce Something Wicked This Way Comes.
which is a movie I haven't seen either. I know you
No,
talked about.
I
Yeah,
haven't either. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean to. So that's a movie we can. I believe it's in our archives. So
Okay, all right.
Definitely something we can make a movie night out of.
All right, maybe next Friday night. I need a break from the wife.
Sounds good. Well, I'm here all alone, the bachelor of the century here. And,
So,
I,
um, what do you want to? So, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to? I guess I could start off with
mhm,
the movie here. I know for a long time, I don't know if because I know you like to have electronic copies of movies, but I
mhm,
like to actually collect physical copies.
definitely.
And I was looking for a long time for a good copy of Phantasm, and
Mhm.
there wasn't one available until like a few years ago. Luckily, J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot um, company decided to remaster the movie, which you can get now on Blu-ray or on DVD, which actually is the version that I have.
He's a
And
good man for doing that.
it looks great. It looks great, the remaster.
Mhm.
I think he was. I might be wrong about this, but I think he was planning on making a remake of it. But I don't know if that what happened with that or if that's still
I'm
going to
I'm
happen.
glad I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, me too. I think he should leave it alone.
Most
Um,
definitely.
But if you're interested in seeing the movie as well, I believe it's either available now on Tubi to watch for free, or if not, if it's not available now, you should be able to see it sometime soon.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. You can see the remaster, which is nice.
Yeah, it's a
So
nice image too.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love the cover.
Um, so I just I saw this movie actually when I was a little kid.
Me too.
Um, and it's one that stuck out to me because there's a lot of dream imagery in there, and I love movies that are like that. And a lot of my favorite movies have that kind of atmosphere to them.
Mhm.
Some of them which are uh, inspirations, I guess, for this movie. I'm probably sound like a broken record, but I talk about this movie all the time. Invaders from Mars. There's a
Great
lot of
flick.
similarities between this movie, which has also recently been remastered by Ignite Films. Uh, this is a movie that we'll talk about maybe later on down the line, so I won't talk too much about it right now. Um, but there's a lot of similarities to some of the scenes in Phantasm to
Mhm.
the way that the film is shot here. There's that dreamlike atmosphere, um, and it's the same kind of concept of a movie sort of being told through the eyes of a child, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, and if you haven't seen this one, I definitely recommend watching it. But
Definitely.
also, there's a
Great
lot
movie.
there. It is, yeah, it's one of my favorites actually. Um, and now you can see the remaster. So
Yeah.
yeah, they redid
Nice
it.
and crisp.
Yeah, it looks great. Um, there's also a lot of references to like other science fiction franchises and things,
Mhm.
which we might. I don't know. Do you want me to get into it now, Mike, or do you have something that you want to start with?
No, sure.
Yeah.
Go right ahead, please.
Okay.
I
So that's why. So I brought up some pictures just so we could talk about them, which are
definitely.
scenes from the movie and so on. Um, so let me share the screen. I don't want to start with the finger. And I didn't arrange these photos at all. So actually, you're gonna have to bear with me while um. So this is a scene, and again, I apologize. Oh, I can make it bigger though. The Although it's grainy. A lot of the scenes, the way that the film is shot reminds me a lot of the filmography in or cinematography. Is that the word?
Mhm.
From this movie. For example, if you look at the use of shadows, like the geometric shadows, and also the juxtaposition of like the people, the way that they're
The,
opposite like
the
that.
way they're framed
Yeah,
and
yeah, and the use of like the vertical lines and like as like portals and like door. There's a lot of pictures of like doorways and stuff
mhm,
in the film. So
which justifiably so. We'll see at the end,
yeah,
why
so
that is.
there's for example this scene. Let me see if I can find some other ones. If I can. Here's another picture of the doorway. Um, but I want to show you the similarities between this and oh, here we go. between this and Invaders from Mars to start with. So this is a scene from Invaders from Mars. This is when they're in the police station, and you can see, a lot of similarity between. It's very geometric. The
Definitely.
like, the right angles and the sharp vertical lines and so on that look like.
As well as the symmetry between the gentleman in the back and the
Yeah,
two light posts.
right. And yeah, actually, I didn't even notice that, but that
Hmm.
kind of looks like the tuning
The
fork.
tuning fork. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good spot. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Just to show you some other, oops, we'll get to that in a minute. Again, another similar looking shot.
Definitely.
Um, so here you go. Like, look at the look at the framing and everything.
Yeah, it's almost the same placement.
Yeah, I think Coscarelli was probably very influenced by, like I said, they're very similar kinds of movies, like because they're both told through sort of like the eyes of a child. So,
Yeah.
through the and things are interpreted through the mind of the way, the way a child processes the world, right?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I just wanted to make that analogy because it looks it's very reminiscent to me, at least, of this movie.
I can see that. Definitely.
Yeah, let me see. Do I have any other? I have a bunch of pictures that I want to talk about, but
Hmm.
so okay, let's talk about some other science fiction references in the movie. So speaking about, the fact that um there's a lot of uh references to other science fiction franchises, and here you could see this is the main character Mike, and it looks like he's kind of holding like a sword, like in like a fantasy novel, like the
Kind
cover
of
of
like
a
a
fantasy novel, or
two-handed sword or.
yeah, 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 or
Mhm.
like the lightsaber, Luke Skywalker with the lightsaber in Star Wars. There's a lot. I know Coscarelli has said that he wasn't actually influenced by Star Wars, but if you look at a lot of the scenes in there, I
Mhm.
I don't know if I necessarily believe him. He may not have consciously been influenced by it, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of similarities between stuff that's in the movie here in Phantasm and Star Wars, and you'll see because I have some pictures to show you to make that analogy. Um, so, for example, this reminds me a little bit of, like, Luke Skywalker holding a lightsaber, right? The hero,
Most definitely,
kind of
yeah.
like the hero's journey type story, right?
Hmm.
Um, Not that this is a hero's journey story, but
Hmm.
or maybe it is. I don't know. But
It kind of is.
yeah. But it's like I said, I think these references are more Coscarelli sort of getting at the hinting at the fact that this is sort of everything seen through Mike's psyche, who is like I
Mhm.
don't know, is he, how old is he? There's the wife, by the way. Uh,
Hey.
I don't know if what was I lost my train of thought now. Uh, these references, I think, are
Hmm.
whether they're conscious, he put them in consciously or not. I can't say. I don't know, but they're sort of like, Mike's like through Mike's psyche, the interpretation of what's going on and everything, right? So
Hmm.
there's a lot of like childish imagery, kind of, right?
Yeah, yeah. Something that
Um,
would be generated in the mind of a child.
yeah, yeah. And let me just show you some more. I'll talk about this scene in a minute. Um, because that's another, these are not more references. The cafe or whatever, the bar that Jody goes to is called the Dunes Cafe, and there's a lot of references to Dune in this movie. And like I said, there's a lot of references to, it seems to me to be like there's a lot of references to Star Wars.
Hmm.
um like I said, I know Coscarelli as in interviews has said that it wasn't an influence, but I don't know if I necessarily believe it. um
Hmm.
but you can also see here like Han Solo with the Millennium Falcon, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jody with the
The
Barracuda.
CUDA.
Yeah, the
Yeah, the
Chrysler Bar.
71 CUDA.
It's such a beautiful car.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
I
Love
heard
that car.
I heard that Coscarelli actually owned this car after they made the movie, so he
It,
actually was driving around in this car afterward. But
that's awesome.
yeah,
I would
yeah.
love to own that car.
Oh yeah, definitely. Love the way it looks.
Oh
But
yeah.
right, it's like Han Solo, like right with the
Yeah. Yeah. The
yeah.
cool look, the rebel kinda,
The
you
hot
know?
rod, yeah.
Hmm.
This in this scene, you can see he really looks like Harrison Ford.
Oh yeah. Hair was styled,
Yeah, 70s hairdo.
to yeah, definitely.
Kind of reminds me of the relationship between Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, like,
Hmm.
the slightly older mentor and so on.
And
So
even in that image, him in the leather jacket kind of gives him that Han
yeah,
Solo.
he kind of looks like Indiana Jones even.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
But also it reminds me of the short way that the short amount of this book that I've read, it kind of reminds me of the two main characters as well. There's two friends that are like the main characters in the book, so it kind of
Mhm.
reminds me of that too. Um, Here we have the tuning fork in the
Oh
back,
yeah.
with
Hmm.
the three main characters, Reggie and Jody and Mike.
Reggie, that's my man.
The ice cream man.
I love Reggie.
Here we have the red planet that you see at the end with the dwarves. The dwarves also is kind of reminds me of a Star Wars reference, right?
Oh yeah.
Like the
Oh yeah.
Jawas.
The Jawas,
Um, I
most
heard
definitely.
I heard in interviews, or I think it's from the commentary
Mhm.
from the movie, that Coscarelli said that they came up with the idea of the dwarves before Star Wars was released.
Mhm.
They heard about the similarity between the dwarves and the Jawas um, during production of Star Wars, and apparently they were thinking about changing the color of the robes from
Uh
brown to gray. But
huh.
then it's a low budget movie, so I guess they figured, screw it,
Yeah.
you know,
No one's gonna see this anyway.
right? But this
Uh,
this scene sticks out to me. I'm sure it sticks out to everyone who sees the movie, but when I was a kid, this scene was like really burned into my memory
yeah, mine
because
too.
it's such a, it's such a,
It's like it goes on forever.
yeah,
It's the horizon,
such a forbidding and
the
like
red planet.
dystopian, I don't know,
Hmm.
kind of thing.
And they're dragging the little barrels of the toxic waste so that they can create more dwarves.
Oh, is that toxic waste? I thought the dwarf, for some reason in my mind, I
Hmm.
thought that the dwarves were stored in those containers.
Well, they do. They wind up popping out of them at the end, but there's a liquid in there that kind of transforms them.
Oh, that totally went over my head. Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of like what's that zombie movie where they have the zombie in the,
Oh, Return of the Living Dead.
yeah, Return of the Living Dead.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he was in the metal canister.
Right, right.
The
Let me see
tar
what.
man.
So some more analogies between like these spherical like sentries and stuff,
Mhm.
well, this one is like a interrogation droid from A New Hope,
Mhm.
and then this is the like training thing that Luke uses to train with his lightsaber.
Mhm.
And then you can see whoops, not this one over here. This is the sentry like death ball thing,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Which also is another thing that stands out, stuck out to me as a kid. I remember having nightmares about that kind of, right.
Chasing
That's
you through these marble hallways and
right, right.
yeah.
Yeah. And I heard that Don Coscarelli came up with the idea of this from a dream,
Hmm.
which is why I say I think the Star Wars influence may not have been conscious.
Yeah.
Maybe it had just got into his psyche because Star Wars was such a phenomenon when it came out,
Oh yeah.
and it was such an influence on everything
Everything.
coming afterward, right? Like Alien
Oh yeah.
was a big took a lot of well, anyway, maybe that's a movie that we'll get into at some point.
Mhm.
Um, but
Oh, I'd love to.
let me see. Oh, this is the book that's on um Mike's bedstand
On
during
his
a
desk
couple of a
there, right?
couple of scenes. Yeah. So
Mhm.
again, maybe I'll go through some of the important things, the imagery in this book. I did order this book. I wanted to have a copy of it so that we could have it to look at here,
Mhm.
but it didn't come in the mail in time, unfortunately. We'll be
Mhm.
more prepared in the next transmission, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
Next transmission, each transmission should be getting a little more professional
yeah,
in their transmissions. So
uh, yeah, we still haven't even got our uniforms yet.
exactly, I don't know
Uh,
what to do.
but there's this common theme, right, in the movie. Well, I think you'll agree, Mike, of doorways, right? There's a lot of characters standing in doorways.
Most definitely.
And you can see that theme here on the cover of Zelazny's book. So I don't think that's not an accident. I think that
Mhm.
was an image that Coscarelli really wanted to get across in the movie.
Yeah, to
So here you can,
portray the portal,
yeah, like
the duality of the different dimensions.
yeah, so there's that concept of a doorway, right? There's a doorway
Mhm.
to another dimension, which
Mhm.
is the big tuning forks.
Hmm.
There's a lot of, characters like the tall man Angus Scrim standing in the doorway, with almost like in this scene, right? There's a scene almost
It
like this
almost
in the
looks
movie.
exactly like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, in the scene where the door blasts open,
Hmm.
and the tall man shows Mike that his hand has grown back, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
that scene.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the fire. I think there's a lot of I think Coscarelli was trying to get across like the idea of sleep being like death and death being like sleep,
Hmm.
right? Because there's a lot of talk about nightmares and dreams. There's a lot of scenes where characters are sleeping and then all of a sudden wake up.
Hmm.
There's a
Hmm.
scene where Jody is like he's in a chair and he almost looks like he's dead. His like
That's when he's in the mausoleum, right? He's or no, it doesn't it
he
transfer to that scene?
does it? I don't remember now, but I just remember in my head there's
Hmm.
a scene where he's sitting on a chair with his head back like this, and it looks he's sleeping, but he looks like he's dead.
Yeah.
Um, and there's the scene at the end where I mean, I don't know if well, it's this movie is from 1979, so
Yeah.
maybe I don't have to
Spoiler
worry about
alert.
yeah, I don't have to worry about spoilers, but um, the scene at the end where you know Mike wakes up and it's all a dream, right?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like that. All of these like childish images and stuff in the movie to me
Hmm.
are like Mike's. You sometimes when you fall asleep and you dream, you're like working out, processing things in your life that in your waking moments you don't have the strength to face, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, the whole movie is like Mike's psyche trying to like make sense of this horrible situation that has happened to him where his parents
Hmm.
have died. And now when he wakes up, you find out not only has his parents died, but now Jody's died, his brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now
The whole
he's
time, it was just a delusion he was having, basically. His
or a
dreams,
dream or yeah, something
his
like that.
yearnings,
Yeah.
to maybe for some normalcy back in his life, because
And
he basically lost his whole family. I
right.
mean,
And I think a lot of so this my brain is getting ahead of my mouth here. There's a lot of things where there's this theme where Mike is constantly following Mike throughout the
mhm.
movie, and there's a scene where Mike is like looking at the tall man with the binoculars,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a great scene by the way, right? Where
Hmm.
Angus Scrim picks up the casket,
Like it's nothing, and
yeah,
just puts it right in the back of the hearse with
puts it
his
in the
own
back of the
hands.
hearse, which
Yep.
I heard that the way that they did that was it was made out of styrofoam and apparently it broke on the first take, but they were able to like
Really
manhandle it to get it
keep it out of
the
frame or
shot,
something.
yeah, the shot
Yeah,
to come out. But
that's
anyway,
funny.
that whole like type of thing, if you notice, it's kind of like there's a lot of scenes where Mike is like watching the action, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
He's always on the outside. I mean, even when he was in when he was in the cemetery and he was spying on Jody
exactly, yeah, that's a good,
having sex
yeah,
in the
that's a
cemetery with the
right,
binoculars.
yeah. It's like in a dream, right? I don't know if your dreams are kind of like this, but sometimes you have dreams where you're kind of like just viewing the
Oh yeah,
things that are
yeah.
going on,
First
right?
person, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's kind of like that's what it reminds me of. It's like,
Mhm.
he's following around Mike because he has this anxiety about his family members dying, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
And also this fascination with what happens to his loved ones after they die. Like, the scene
Mhm.
where he goes into the mausoleum, right? Is that the word?
When he kicks in the window in the basement.
Well, not yes, that's a great scene too, but I'm talking about when he opens up his parents' casket. Do you remember
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And his parents aren't there because he doesn't know
Uh-huh.
what happens when you die, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if there's an anxiety, like there's a trauma there
Hmm.
that it's almost like his brain is processing through the movie, and we're seeing these events happen through his childlike interpretation of things.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and let me go back to the Dune thing because
Yeah, yeah.
there another
I find this interesting.
yeah, another reference to another science fiction franchise. Again, because this is a 13-year-old boy. I'm assuming he's 13. I don't remember if they say how old he is, but
Yeah, I don't think they do, but yeah, he's probably around that age.
he looks like it, right?
Yeah, roughly.
Uh but so maybe Mike just happened to read Frank Herbert's Dune, a little while before this took place, whatever, and this was like in his psyche, um, because there's a lot of so I think that it's said in this scene, but I think it transmits throughout the rest of the movie. Um, this is the witch, right? When he goes to like the psychic in the
Yeah,
beginning,
like a soothsayer.
because he's
Hmm.
worried about Mike dying, right? So he goes to the soothsayer to see if everything's going to be all right,
Hmm.
and then he mentions to her also there's this stuff going on at the funeral home, right?
Yeah.
Um, and she manifests this like spectral box on the table, um, and the scene is very much almost identical to the scene in the book Dune, or if you've seen the movie Dune from I forget what year this came out. Um, I think he was referencing the book though,
Hmm.
where the witch there, which is part of a cult called the Bene Gesserit, um, there's a test that they have, and they
Hmm.
put the protagonist in that story through this test where he has to put his hand in this box, and he doesn't know what's inside it. The witch just tells him, "Put your hand in the box," and he does so. And when he puts his hand in the box, she takes what's called the gom jabbar and puts it to his neck, which is a needle that's poison tipped. And she says, you just have to keep your hand in the box. If you take your hand out, I'm going to kill you."
Hmm.
So he has to keep his hand in the box, and the box causes him extreme physical pain. But the test is he has to face it like a thinking creature, right?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
and
Endure it.
the uh the when he passes the test, what she says to him is fear is the mind killer. And I think that's why Coscarelli put this in here too, because a lot of it is about Mike like trying to process his anxiety and fear over all of the tragic things that have happened to him in recently that have to
Hmm.
deal with his family dying and so on. And you see, like, there's a scene too, a montage where he's going through all these tribulations and trials. Do you
Hmm.
know the scene I'm talking about? Where he there's the Angus Scrim character, but in the lady form,
Oh, yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then
Yep.
there's like I don't know, there's like a quicksand thing, or there's a bunch of like
Hmm. It's like
trials, and
little obstacles that get in
yeah,
his way. Yeah.
yeah. So he has to like face his fears and so on.
And it
Uh,
was the same lady from the beginning of the movie that actually killed
oh yeah,
that
the
killed Tommy.
Tommy, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So it was the
Which
same form that he had taken.
I want to talk about that too, because I laughed when that scene came on, just thinking about Angus Scrim like grinding on like
Yeah.
on
Imagine opening your eyes and it's just Angus Scrim. Uh, that's horrible.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That's just funny. That's the first thing that occurred. But
uh,
something else occurred to me too. There's
mhm,
the scene in the beginning too, where he's like, when Jody's walking around the mausoleum, because
mhm,
he hears like the dwarves or whatever, the noises that they make. And the first time you see Angus Scrim, which is kind of like the manifestation of um I don't know if this, like I said, this is my interpretation, like manifestation of Mike's fear of death or something, right?
yeah, yeah.
But he grabs, it's like a jump scare. He grabs Jody on the shoulder, and he's like,
Hmm.
"The funeral's about to begin, sir." Right? Like it's about like the movie's about to begin, the dream is about to begin, kind of,
Yeah. And the
right?
way he says it,
Yeah, yeah.
the way he says it's so
What? Yeah, I
dramatic
mean,
and it grabs you.
classic scene, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Angus Scrim. There's okay, so a couple other things, and then maybe I'll let you. Sorry, I've been talking for a long
Oh,
time.
you're
I don't want to.
fine. You're
Yeah.
fine. Trust me.
There's the finger scene with the when they chop off his finger, and
Hmm.
where
The honey mustard. Chick,
so
some chicken fingers.
some scrim fingers. Where is the shoot? Where is the bug?
I think it was a little earlier.
I gotta find the scene. Oh, here it is.
There it is.
Yeah, so Angus Scrim's this scrim finger turns into this bug, which is such a great little effect. It's
Yeah,
so it's
practical effect
yeah,
to the utmost.
right. I would love to have a Christmas decoration of this thing you can hang on your Christmas
That
tree.
would be great. That would be great.
Or maybe even like actually the death ball would make a good Christmas ornament too.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would.
But I just love this like the corniness of this, like, it's a independently made film, so
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it gets to the point, when it flies, you can see the line, and he gets caught up in Mike's hair,
Right.
and it's all stuck in his hair, and
Speaking of which, that gets to me because I remember hanging out one night, um, and we were sitting in the grass, and I felt something jump on my head. And when I put my hand on my head and I pulled whatever it was off, it was a gigantic praying mantis.
oh,
Yeah, that like that
yeah,
traumatized me.
yeah. I'm not into bugs, so this scene, when I watched this as a kid, this scene really got me, because I never liked bugs. I never a little bit of a phobia I have, but
It's also kind of like a little bit of comedy,
yeah, yeah,
comic
it's like
relief,
something
right?
you could see that would fit in like a movie like House,
Yeah, right,
uh,
right. Yeah,
or
that's a
Brain
good
Dead,
analogy. Yeah,
or
yeah,
something like that.
right. I remember there's an interview with Angus Scrimm and Don Coscarelli I was watching the other day, and he talked about, when he was making this movie, he wanted to make a movie that had a lot of like scares in it, like gruesome things, and funny moments too, because
Yeah, yeah.
I think he said he feels like there's a connection between making an audience scared and making an audience laugh.
Well, some of my favorite horror films are horror comedies,
Oh yeah, sure.
and
Yeah,
it does go hand in hand, because you have that kind of roller coaster effect. You got the scares, and then the lulls, and then the laughs, and
right.
it gives you an
You
experience.
gotta give a little bit of relief afterward, right?
You do, you do.
But I think it's also a nervous reaction, right? Like when you get scared, your natural reaction is to laugh afterward.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so
Most
anyway,
definitely.
yeah, I just like this special effect.
That's a great effect. I loved it. And then
Um,
it attacks Reggie when he comes in.
yeah, that's what I mean about the comic relief. Yeah,
Yeah, it's ultimately to wind up in the garbage disposal.
that's right. Good, the garbage disposal.
Yep.
I wonder what
That's a
happened.
great scene right there. The jam scene.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the
So
jam
Reggie
scene
pulls up in an ice cream truck,
with a
old
guitar
school
with
ice cream truck.
with his guitar like hanging out the side of the
Yeah.
ice cream truck,
It's
right?
just it's just there, no case, nothing. Comes on over, and they have an impromptu jam session right on the front steps.
Yeah, which is funny because really the only reason for this scene
Mhm.
is at the very end when Reggie strikes the tuning fork and then
Uh-huh.
puts it stubs it out with his fingers,
Yeah,
right?
they show it in this scene while he's tuning the guitar.
Yeah, yeah.
So he
Uh
must have stuck it in his pocket, forgot about it, and then later on, it came in pretty handy.
yeah, it's kind of funny, like, because they're like, how are we gonna, I just picture them like, having the meeting, like how are we gonna introduce the notion of a tuning fork?
Yeah, where are we gonna find a tuning fork?
And they're like, well, why don't we have a scene where Reggie and Jody are play, I don't know, maybe they're in a band or something. I don't,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah,
That was a
I mean
great scene.
it gets the point across.
Most
So
definitely. I love that
yeah,
amp too.
Fender. Yeah, is that a
Yeah.
Fender? Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, that's a good scene. I want to talk about the another scene as well. This one with that involves Reggie also,
Hmm.
with Angus Scrimm. So Reggie's like, I guess, loading in his stock of ice cream for the day or something, and
Hmm.
he has the freezer open in the back, and Angus Scrimm walks by, and again you see, Mike sees him from across the street, so it's like Mike looking, again, like at the action, right? But it looks like Angus Scrimm is looking back at him, but he's not actually looking at Mike. He's, I guess, like enjoying the frost
Yeah.
from the ice cream truck. It's a
Hmm.
really strange scene. It's
Maybe
almost like
it's a preservation technique, or
maybe, yeah, I was thinking maybe it has something to do with the fact that he's so, like, he's a coroner or something, and I don't know, but it's a strange scene, but it's
yeah.
definitely atmospheric, and it
That's
definitely gets the
it's
it's the
one of
kind.
those dream scenes.
Yeah,
It
exactly. It's the kind of
definitely.
right. It's the kind of thing you would see in a dream, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Most definitely.
Um,
So, I love the music in this movie.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Tell us.
I that main theme sticks with me. I actually have it as a ringtone. I just wanted to touch on that real quick, and then
Mhm.
we could get back into the pictures. But yeah, I mean, it was composed by Fred Miro and Malcolm Seagrave. A fun fact about it, though, is that Bill Cohn, the actor that portrayed Tommy, who died in the opening scene, lent his guitar skills to the score. So
Oh,
he's actually playing guitar in the main score.
that's awesome.
And I also love the fact that when they do go to the Dunes Cantina, when they walk in, the jukebox is playing a disco 1970s version of the movie's score.
Right on.
It
Yeah.
was awesome. That was like one of the best scenes. It was funky too. Um,
Yeah, the music in this movie is fantastic.
it really is. You know, it
Uh,
was. They said it was inspired by or influenced by Goblin, the group that did a lot of music in Dario Argento's movies.
mhm.
The Gates of Hell trilogy. They covered all of that. So yeah, it definitely has that eerie, artistic horror vibe. You know,
Yeah,
that
it
you
just
get out of
fits
like a Giallo movie or something.
it totally just fits the atmosphere, right?
It really does.
It also reminds me, I think we were talking about this before, of John Carpenter's work, you know, because he used to do the music for
Yeah,
his
he made
movies
his own
too.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like Halloween, the music for Halloween also kind
Mhm.
of reminds me of that.
Most definitely.
Yeah, great soundtrack.
It really was. But this movie was something else. It's a special movie. It has a place in my heart forever. I mean, Angus Scrimm as an actor is just the scariest villain you could imagine. And he's just a tall old man. You know, there's really
Right.
nothing, you know, later on, you know, things change a little bit. But he was originally 6'4". Um,
Yeah, they put lifts on him, right?
yeah, they put lifts on his shoes. He was born in 1926, so he died in 2016 at 89 years old.
Yeah, that's
But prior to that, he actually, thankfully, was able to star again in Phantasm 5 Ravager. So prior to him passing from this plane onto the next red planet, he you know, he was able to do that, which was good because you know, to reprise his role, no one could ever replace him. I can't see a reboot
oh
ever
no.
happening, or you know.
Yeah, yeah. So like you were saying, and thank God that they didn't make the remake, right? Who,
Yeah,
who would replace who I don't know, who would replace Angus Scrimm? I
and
can't.
it would be a mockery of itself, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really hope they don't do it because this is a masterpiece in its own right.
In fact, the same interview that I mentioned before, I Don Coscarelli, when he was asked what inspired him to make a horror movie,
Hmm.
he turned to Angus Scrimm and he was like, "He's sitting right here."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you meet the man. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you know you get that vibe. It's pretty crazy. Angus Scrimm was in quite a few things actually.
You mentioned to me before that also
Mhm.
he was in another Don Coscarelli movie.
He was.
John dies at the end.
John
Is that
dies at the end. Yeah,
yeah?
in 2012. Um, he had a role in that. He was also in 1986's Chopping Mall, which is a classic
Yeah,
robo
love that.
horror.
Yeah, Barbara
You know?
Crampton. Yeah,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And he was in 1990s Subspecies. He actually played the elder vampire um, in that franchise. Which if you haven't seen Subspecies, give it
I
a
haven't.
watch.
Yeah. Oh.
It's definitely a really nice. There's five movies in the franchise.
Can you see those on Shutter? Do you know?
I don't know offhand. I have to look into that a little more.
All right. I
Yeah,
might watch. I want to rewatch John dies at the end because I don't remember Angus Scrimm in that, but
yeah.
uh I watched it a long time ago, so
Mhm.
I don't know. I'll
Yeah,
have to
it was a
rewatch that one.
trippy movie. That was
Yeah,
it was good. I
yeah.
enjoyed it.
And
Good
I didn't
cast.
at the time I didn't realize that Don Coscarelli directed that one. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, he also did all the subsequent sequels. I mean, there's four sequels to Phantasm, ending with Five Ravager in 2016.
Hmm.
Um, I also found it funny, Mike, how he just, he has so little respect for graves. He's just he's doing wheelies on his dirt bike, like
That's
over
true. Yeah,
over
yeah, yeah.
people's tombstones. That always struck me as hilarious.
Yeah, and people like have it like having sex on the
Yeah, twice. And,
yeah.
two scenes having sex in the cemetery. Is that the place to go in the town? The first guy died horribly, and then the second scene, his little brother was watching him in the act.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
both both strange scenes, definitely.
I don't know.
Uh,
It seems like when I was younger, there was a graveyard by us, and I know some of my friends used to hang out there. I never actually had the chance to go do that, but I guess it is kind of a cool, spooky place
yeah,
to
I
hang.
used to I used to always after school. We went to the same high school, you and me.
Right.
We know some people. Um, I used to hang out in Middle Village a lot.
Hmm.
And if you've ever gone to Middle Village, New York, you realize that basically Middle Village is in the middle of cemeteries. It's it's a village just surrounded by gigantic cemeteries. So
That
as a
sounds like
teenager,
a horror movie waiting
it
to
re-
happen,
it really is.
right?
As a teenager, me and a lot of my friends used to go out to Middle Village, and we'd hang out in cemeteries and get into all sorts of trouble, and you know
Yeah.
but it was real memorable. I used to love it. It's a peaceful place. The
Did you
dead
ever
aren't going to bother you.
did you ever
Well,
make
a little
love
bit,
to a 6'2" tall man in a suit?
yeah. Once or twice, but
Well,
it's
it's a cemetery. What happens in the cemetery stays in the
yeah.
cemetery, right?
Any port in a storm. But but yeah, no, I mean, if you wanted to bring up some pictures again, that shotgun
I
shell.
think I think oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that. There's only a few more points I think that I wanted to
Mhm.
make. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to add too, but
It
um,
kind of coupled in with that,
okay, let me bring that up.
because
Let me bring that picture up then because that's a funny scene. If I can find where it is, just give me a second. Um, I really should have ordered these. uh, oh, actually, I think it's towards the left here. Um,
And this is going to be something that you do not try at home, kids. I'll preface
I
it
I
with
remember
that.
like the when this scene. Oh, here it is. When this scene happened, I remember being like, Jesus, like you would never be able to get away with a scene like this in a movie today,
Not at all.
right?
Not at all. Kids would be losing their hands, dying. It would be
So
horrible.
so let me explain what
Yeah,
happens
yeah.
in
Explain the
this.
premise. Yep.
First of all, if you look, you can see the novel. My Name is Legion, the Zelazny book on his bookshelf on his nightstand here. Also, I think this thing that's here isn't that like it's like that magic box thing, like where you put a penny in it and it looks like it's floating. Is that what that thing is?
It almost looks like it. Yeah, where
Do you know what I'm
it's
talking
like
about? It's like an
it's
illusion.
mirrored, and it makes it look like
Yeah,
a hologram
it's like an
almost.
illusion. It's either that or it's an ashtray, and Mike is smoking in his bedroom. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
Maybe I
just
mean
smoke
with
some weed, and that's why he's gonna making a shotgun hammer.
yeah, yeah. So first thing that happens, right? He takes a shotgun shell out of his shirt pocket
Mhm.
and he starts banging it the the shelf. Like I guess he was like, I don't know how Mike gets the idea to do this thing, but
Yeah,
he's like starts bang and I'm like, Jesus kid, be careful. What are you doing?
buckshot to the underside of the face.
Seriously, it's like that's the way you lose a hand. What the
Yeah,
hell?
yeah.
But then he notices he's like because he's locked in his room and he wants to get out because he wants to follow Mike to the mausoleum. Um, and he like looks at the shotgun shell. And he looks up to like I guess he has like a cork board or something on his wall, and he
Mhm.
takes a like a thumbtack or whatever out of
Yeah.
it, right? And he puts it in the what is it called? The thing that that the hammer hits in the gun that
It's called
makes
the
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that
But
piston or
I don't know
I
what
know
it's called.
it's a little
Yeah,
circular piece. Yeah.
right. It like ignites the gunpowder.
Mhm.
He puts the thumbtack in that thing and then pushes it in. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, is this the scene where Mike dies? Like, what?
Yeah, you're just expecting him to just like just a bloody mist.
And then he like duct tapes it to a hammer,
Mhm.
like with the with the thumbtack side on the hammer, and
Yeah.
then he goes to the door and he like hits it on the door and it explodes and makes a giant hole in the wall. But I was like, Jesus.
Well, he was locked in his room because Jody
Yeah, he wanted to get out
in
of his
there,
room, right? Because he like
to keep him safe. He didn't
jammed
want
the
him to
door.
go back
Yeah,
to Morningside, which is the mausoleum, the cemetery. Um, and then Jody then goes to Morningside to discover, what's going on there.
right.
And that's when he comes across that room with the the tuning forks and the portal.
Yeah, all three of them meet up together
Hmm.
after Mike looks in his I forget is it his father or mother's casket that he
I
looks in.
I can't recall.
I
I
think it
can't.
might have been his father. I don't remember though. Um, but yeah, that's where they pass through that door with the crazy like head sculpture that's on top.
Yeah, it had like four white heads that were like porcelain almost looking, or
Yeah, yeah, there's like
ceramic, or
um do I have a picture of that? I think I
I
do
think
actually.
you did, yeah.
Yeah. Uh which was I think that was a prop actually. That isn't although the mausoleum too, most of it is a set that was
Yeah,
built too.
soundstage. Yep.
Yeah.
I
Here
think they only used the outside shot of of the building
whoops.
for the movie. I don't think we saw any of the actual interior.
Um, you can actually see some of these Mike Hammer. Sorry, I'm looking for this picture. You can see some of the filming locations if you're familiar with um the YouTube page Grim Life Collective. They
Yep, the
they
Grim Life Collective.
yeah,
Mhm.
here it is.
They just recently did a video on the filming locations for Phantasm. So
Yes.
be sure to
Yeah.
go check those guys out. Awesome page.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Big shout out to both of them.
So here, this is the sculpture that's on top of the door that leads to the room with the dwarves and the uh tuning
The
fork,
tuning fork. Yep.
the tuning fork portal. Yeah. Again, doorways. It's a common motif in the movie. But yeah, I think this is a prop. It's kind of interesting. It looks like I don't know who these people are supposed to represent, or if they're like people from history or what.
That's
But
what I was wondering because I noticed like the helmets. They have the Centurion helmets.
yeah, or is it like supposed to be like iterations of Angus Scrim? Like
I
was
was
he
wondering that too.
like
Was
was
that
he here like through
history?
yeah, history, because there's that scene where Mike picks up the Polaroid, right? And Angus Scrimm is in it, and he's in like a horse-drawn carriage, like as if he was doing this work like all the way back in like the 1800s and so
Almost
on.
like that Pennywise scene from
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
TV the
That's
TV
right.
version.
Yeah, yeah, that's
They
true.
open the book and he runs up in the photograph, and
Right, yeah.
you know
Yeah, it's a
it,
cool scene.
it definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I now that we're looking at it, I wish I had looked into it more to see what this sculpture was supposed to be about. But it is
You
interesting. I
could
don't know.
always post it in the comments later.
Yeah. So there's again, I guess. Oh, this is a good scene too. Actually, let me talk about this before I show more pictures of doorways. I don't really know what they were getting at here, but this is the scene where Reggie gets killed by Angus Scrim. He Angus was in his female form, I guess, and Reggie tries to, he looked like he was in distress, and Reggie tries to help the girl out, but
Mhm.
she stabs him with the knife, and he dies here. And Angus Scrim, there's this really creepy scene where Angus Scrim like points at him, his dead body with the knife,
Almost as if I just did that.
like
You
he's
know?
yeah, like he's sending him to hell or something. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. You tell your God I did this to you.
Which is strange because so this is another thing that like makes me think about this being a dream of Mike's, because Reggie dies. We see Reggie die, but it's actually not Reggie who dies. It's Mike who dies,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It's almost like, in his dream, he wishes it were Reggie instead of Mike. You know what I mean? That
Mm-hmm.
that died. But then when he wakes
You
up,
mean Jody?
Jody, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. Um, when he wakes up, he's confronted with the fact that actually it's Reggie who is
Yeah.
is there and not Mike. And then he goes up to his room, picks up a Polaroid of Mike,
Hmm.
and actually, I think I have this scene somewhere here, and I wanted to talk about that too because I think it's a good way to end the movie, for various reasons. Man, I really should have arranged these photos. I apologize. Uh,
It's the inaugural transmission, so please,
oh,
please bear.
speaking about Mike, actually, this is like foreshadowing the scene, right?
Yeah, yeah, I would say. I mean, because this is basically like a dream state here, right?
But yeah, it's like Jody walking through the threshold on a path of light, like he's
Hmm.
walking to his death, right?
Toward the light, yeah.
And then right after this scene is where the tall man, you know, pats him on the shoulder and says the funeral is about to begin.
Hmm.
But anyway, if I could just bear with me with my incompetence.
Okay,
Oh, actually, let's talk about this scene too, because
it's one of the best.
yeah, this is apparently was the first scene that Coscarelli had in mind for the movie. And actually, I think they used this for promotional like
Oh
posters
yeah,
and
it
stuff.
was in the trailer. It was,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, speaking of the, I should have brought up the trailer. Maybe we could have watched that too. But uh, I don't know. Maybe we still will.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, the scene right where the hands come up from the grave while he's sleeping, right,
yeah, yeah.
in a graveyard. So again, like sleep and death and fear of death. Angus Scrim being
And him
like a metaphor.
presiding over him like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's
It's
like the whole movie wrapped up in one picture. Um, yeah, so that's a good scene.
and then as the scene progresses, on either side of the bed, two bodies come up out of the grave and grab onto Mike and start to pull him in.
Right. Pull him down into the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this is the scene. Whoops. This is the scene with oh, come on, with Angus Scrim in the
Mhm.
doorway. Like that reminds me of, because Mike trips when he's coming through the door. It reminds me of the cover of that Zelazny book.
Definitely.
Um, where where was it? Uh, another. Oh, this is the scene.
Yeah, that's it right
Again,
there.
doorway, right? A mirror, which is like a portal. This is the scene right after Mike picks. So what happens before this? Mike wakes up from his nightmare. Reggie confronts him with the reality of what his life is now, right?
Mhm.
And he's like, well, let's try to, well, let's go on a road trip, right? So sort of like, let's put our worries behind us.
And let's bond.
Let's not focus
Brother.
on, yeah, let's get away from all this horror and death and everything.
Mhm.
But and he's like, go pack. So Mike goes up to his bedroom, and he picks up his a photograph of
Of Jody.
Jody
Yeah.
and puts it in his pocket, and he closes the closet door, and on the closet door is a mirror, and when he closes it, Angus Scrim is standing there, as sort of like uh almost like telling Mike, you're not going to escape this. You have to deal with this, right? You have to
Yeah.
process it. And there's a line right before this too where he's like, Mike says, I don't think that, because they dump him down like a mine shaft, right? And then like rocks,
Yeah,
uh
they throw the boulders on top of him.
yeah. So it's almost like, he's burying these feelings of, this trauma and loss and whatever. But he knows that's not going to stay buried. It's going to come up at some point again, right? And it's going to keep coming up until he faces it. And this is sort of like, after he picks up, in my mind anyway, after he picks up the photo of Jody, this is like that stirring back up in the back of his mind, right? And then he gets pulled into the mirror
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end, and that's how the movie ends.
Which
Uh,
is, you could look at it in a couple of different ways. Like he's in the mirror, of course, you're looking at it as he's on the other side.
he's on the other side. Yeah, there's a
Uh,
threshold that he has to cross. It's also like mirrors in movies. Like well, I don't want to tell everybody what movie we're going to talk about next week yet.
Yeah, yeah,
Yet,
yeah, yeah.
but the next movie that we're going to talk about, mirrors are a big theme also.
Oh yeah.
But this is kind of like saying Angus Scrim is the reflection of Mike, right? It's the reflection of his fears and the stuff that he has to face.
Mhm.
And mirrors are, serve that purpose a lot in movies, I think. And
Windows to the soul,
yeah,
right?
right, exactly. Yeah. So it's a reflection of Mike,
A
right?
reflection. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, and that's how the movie ends. So I don't know. Do you have any I think that's all I really want to say. So I don't know if you want to end with anything or
Yeah, I just this scene actually in particular, I just wanted to quickly, state that the similarities between this as well as the end scene in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part One. Mike here gets pulled into the mirror
Mhm.
by the tall man, and you can see that that was used, as a, you know, as an homage, maybe, quite possibly. But at the end, when the mother is saying goodbye to the kids, in Nightmare on Elm Street Part One, and they're taking away in the car, which the hood rolls up and it shows Freddy's sweater colors, and you realize, oh, they're in danger, and then the mother gets pulled through the glass window of the door. That always struck me as very similar to this scene.
Hmm.
And I just wonder if he used that as an influence for that scene in A Nightmare on Elm Street.
It could very well be. I'll have to watch that movie again because I haven't seen it in years.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh
And he gets, the mother's basically just waving goodbye, and then Freddy's hand comes out of that glass and just pulls her right in. That's how it ends. So, it's definitely there's a lot more depth to this movie than what it is at face value.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think I like this is the thing I kind of like about movies like this where because there's a lot of vagueness in it
Mm,
and it's very dreamlike, you can like read, it can speak to you personally, right? Like it could whatever fear you have, you can see represented in a way in
yeah.
this, right? I mean,
Mhm.
obviously there are themes about death and everybody,
There's something for everybody.
yeah, yeah. But
Most definitely.
there's a lot of ways of interpreting the symbols, I think, in this
Mhm.
one. So yeah, it's a great one for us to start with, the
Yeah,
transmission one.
I
What
love
do you,
this movie.
right? So yeah, I think I'm done. If unless there's anything else you want to add, we could wrap up.
Oh, I'm all set. I hope if you are receiving this transmission, I hope it helps you in some way. And I hope wherever you are, you have access to some media archives as well, because it's pretty lonely without it. So I wish you luck, and we'll keep trying to reach out to you.
All
So
right.
that's where we're at.
I guess this is Outpost 13, and
Signing off
we're signing off. See you guys next week.
next week.